Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Joey.
And I'm Jeremy.
And this week, we've been listening to an album that, somebody actually, that wasn't one of us, somebody actually, told us about, and it happened to be the people who made this album.
Yeah, a band trying to promote their new album.
To a podcast that has no listeners.
I mean, they maybe will listen to this episode. If so, hi, guys.
Yeah, definitely. That's before we go any further, the band, the Sunset Kings, the album, Shadow Work in Technicolor, and yeah, I mean, they just posted on something we uploaded. I don't remember what episode. I think it was the Peach Pit episode, maybe.
No, I think it was the Passion Pit. Because the Peach Pit episode just went up this week, so it could have been.
That's true. It was Passion Pit. It had to have been a Pit episode. And it was Passion Pit. But yeah, they were like, hey, check out this album that we did. And I was like, sure. And now we're here.
now we're here. That's the how and the why. So we don't need to go venturing out into the streets and looking for any reason or any specific street like Boylston Street. We don't need to go there.
Yeah,
we've arrived at our destination.
Yeah, we don't need to have a Boylston Street intro for sure. That's definite. Right.
Because it's already been done on this album. Track number 1, Boylston Street intro.
So I'm gonna start off, and this is directly to the people, to the band.
The Sunset Kings.
The Sunset Kings. So
do you know their names?
No, I couldn't find them anywhere. Literally anywhere. I looked. And looked. And you know what? I came to the conclusion that may be by design. Maybe they just don't want their names out there. Unless you found them, in which case...
No, I didn't even look. So
okay. Oh, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I looked on Bandcamp. I looked on SoundCloud. I looked on random articles that had been written about their music. And yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere. But
they're a relatively new / undiscovered band, I think. So...
yeah, Spotify, I think
that's what I was getting the vibes of.
Yeah, their most played song on Spotify had 35,000 plays, I think, which is
it's pretty good. It's more than we get.
yeah, way more.
By a whole lot.
By an infinite margin, because you can't
undefined margin.
Yeah. But what I'm going to say is, so we're going to be, I don't know, segueing and making jokes and stuff about.
Are you explaining our podcast to the band?
No,
album we're doing here?
I'm just being we don't mean any disrespect. If maybe
I mean all of the disrespect, man.
Well, you know what? I don't. Jeremy does, I guess. But so I don't know if Boylston Street has some huge meaningful impact to these people, and if it does, and we're just sitting here fuck Boylston Street, man. I just know I mean it in the utmost of love.
Fuck that. Joey, you're being too apologetic. This album's ours now. It was released into the ether, and that means it is what we make of it.
Well, speaking of ether, the song actually starts off with a cool kind of echoey, reverby sound. It has a reversed ethereal sound to kind of set the mood of the album, and the music is behind someone reciting poetry. I don't know if it's she came up with it or if it's a poem that I just don't know about, because apparently a lot of the people involved with this musical project are involved in the Boston poetry scene. So I don't know if they're just out there sharing poems or something. But
you've done your research,
because it was kind of real people behind it. I mean,
are you saying that Peach Pit isn't a real band?
I mean, they are, but I don't know them, and I don't know anybody related to this album, to this band, to the Boston poetry scene. I don't know any of them. But the fact that I at least replied to a comment that they left makes it more human. Yeah, it makes it more human.
That's why you felt the need to apologize in advance for any of our horrible segues.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, because none of your lyrics are on Genius, and I'm not that good at distinguishing words, so I probably missed a lot of the points of the songs. But yeah. So long story long, I did my research on at least I guess, where they're from. But so yeah, she's reciting poetry, like intense poetry. The music keeps building. The reversed, slowy sound, like it stays. The guitar picks up a little bit, and then the drums come in, kind of to complete the sound towards the latter half of the song, where like a guitar solo comes in before it cuts out to. It's a voice message of a fan or a friend of somebody in the band, I guess, about like wanting to meet up because they're in town, they're in around New York, and they want to go like connect.
It's interesting that you got the vibe that it was a friend or a fan, because in my mind, and maybe this is just a difference of perspective, I was thinking, okay, well, it's a label person or like a talent agent scouting that like saw one of their concerts and they're like, hey, like let's meet, let's talk about what's gonna happen next with the band, kind of a thing was the vibe that I was getting. But who knows?
They know, and I mean, if they do listen, maybe they'll be like, "You're wrong. You're wrong.
Hey,
you're wrong."
Fuck them. I'm going to take the opposite stance. I know, Joey, you want so hard to be polite and tactful and respectful of their album and their existence. Fuck that. Fuck that. No, I'm not gonna be rude. But I don't know. I'm gonna call it as it is to me.
Do it.
You know, this track. I like this track. It's a cool track. Cool intro.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm shitting on the music already, but it's cool.
Yeah, I'd say it sets up like the intro for the album pretty well, just with kind of the general sound. I mean, they experiment with a few other sounds, like genres of music, I guess, on the rest of the album, but the general kind of cool, spacey, laid back kind of sound, I'd say it fits the album pretty well. But I got that it was a fan on the voice message, or like a friend, somebody
that was not a label person.
Yeah, not a money hungry.
Not a money hungry man.
Yeah,
woman.
just money hungry. That's what I'm gonna call
not
them. Not
a money hungry. You are a money hungry.
But like maybe not a friend, but like an acquaintance, I guess.
Yeah.
Like somebody who was like, "Hey, I've met you twice, and that was pretty cool. So let's get together
for the third time."
Yeah, and
I could see that.
Just like the general vibe of this song, I got kind of, I don't know, maybe that like informed my decision on who I thought it was on the voice message. I thought the song was about like relationships, but not necessarily like romantic relationships, more like friends and acquaintances, and like the emotional attachment that comes with knowing someone, kind of like whenever you've been around someone a few times and you just kind of like connect with them in a way that like you don't have to use words to describe, or I just kind of the general feeling whenever you're around the same person several times and you kind of just get a feel of each other. I don't know how to describe it.
See, I did think it was more specifically about a relationship, like a romantic thing. Side note, just to give you guys a heads up, I don't really get into R&B stuff often, and there are a few reasons for that I've just, I don't know, I'm not drawn into R&B music and stuff. But yeah, this song in my mind, I was like, yeah, okay, it's a song about sex. It's a song about having really good sex, because that's kind of what the poetry at the beginning was making me think. It was like describing like transcending and floating into the heavens, but also being in someone's bedroom, and like I don't know, it just felt very sexual to me and very like raw about that. And then there's like a rap verse in this that kind of also backs up the sex thing, but the rap stuff felt more that it was about a relationship of like getting to know someone, kind of like what you were saying, but I felt like there was an intentional like dating kind of relationship backdrop on that, not just like a friends thing.
Maybe that's because you're just full of raw sexual energy, Jeremy.
Maybe. Or honestly, the reason I hedged about R&B not being my thing is because a lot of R&B songs in my mind specifically are like, they're all about sex. They're all about sex. There's not an R&B song that exists that is not about just fucking, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think it's I don't know, like a coincidence I guess, whatever you believe in, but that this whole album, there are R&B themes throughout it.
Yeah.
And it's like it came off the tail end of, I think it was 1 or 2 episodes ago that we were talking about how much like how R&B is like the one thing that we can't.
Yeah, I couldn't remember
do.
if we had that discussion on an episode or not. I cannot stand R&B music, at least not like poppy R&B. I like soul music.
Yeah,
and I can get into that shit, but like there's something about the like more poppy R&B that I can't stand. One part of it being the lyrics. It's always about fucking. Always. Fucking The Weeknd, every fucking song he sings is about fucking.
some of his songs are about cocaine. Don't even, Jeremy.
Well, every song I've heard by him. How about that? And I listened to his newest album, I think, and most of it was about fucking. I don't know. I don't like it. I can't get into it too much. A lot of this album has a lot of R&B feel to me, and we'll explore that as we go through it.
I think we might know what that means about the album.
Hey, I'm not holding any punches here. All right, I'm not trying to be friendly to the Sunset Kings. You guys, I guess I'll put an asterisk there and say keep making music. Don't let my opinion of your music put you off of making the music you want to make. That's not my place. I'm just expressing my opinions.
I need to clear up. Is The Weeknd R&B? Like,
I mean, he's more. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's more pop, but there's certain aspects of a lot of his music that kind of pulls me in an R&B direction.
Because I like The Weeknd, at least somewhat.
Yeah, I don't dislike it. I don't know. He sits in a weird spot for me.
Well,
I don't know. I feel like he sings about fucking too much.
Yeah, he could really go like back and forth for me, like back and forth, like constantly back and forth, like a metronome.
Yeah,
like a metronome or something. Like, dude's fucking metronoming over there on the charts on the scale of my music likes.
We need a metronome to keep us on beat. So let's keep talking. Track number 2, metronoming.
This one, it starts out instantly like more fast paced. It doesn't have the slow type reverby feel that I got from the previous song, from the opening song. It has more of like a jazzy funk type feel. It's pretty poppy too. Like there's a lot of pop throughout this album, I feel. And I mean, I don't know why I say I feel. Like I'm sure it's a pretty noticeable fact that there's just pop on this album. But
so this is where this whole episode of thing is going to be us fighting each other to some degree.
Yes,
because like it does have a lot of like jazz influence on a lot of the songs on this album. The song specifically, I know there's a whole lot of layers and a whole lot of like building this jazzy kind of disparate beat, and then there's the vocals for me, I think, is what puts it into R&B territory. Because it just, I don't know, a lot of the vocals on this album feel like they're R&B hooks, and maybe part of that's just because my aforementioned hatred of like songs just always talking about sex and R&B, and the singer a lot of times is very breathy and things, and I don't know, it makes me feel uneasy at points in this album. I think there's a lot that's going on in this album, and a lot of it is cool, but I can't get into the song. I can't get into this kind of music. I think it's a bit too muddled, right? Where there's just maybe too much going on, too many layers that aren't really working with each other. And I feel like less would have been more in this case for the song specifically.
Not necessarily this song for me, but I do have that point in the future on this album. So it's I don't think that is something that we'll be fighting about.
Yeah, I guess I just meant because you said you took it in more of a pop direction.
Yeah.
And in my mind, what I didn't say that I was thinking is that like, okay, well, I feel like a lot of the jazz and a lot of the like weird, muddled like production of this album takes it out of pop territory for me, whereas it's not something that a lot of people would really listen to and vibe with. Maybe I'm just out of my element here though, because again, I don't listen to a lot of R&B.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I listened to this album. Like, I don't know what headspace, because I've just been like all over the fucking place recently. This week, my daughter started school, so
chaotic. We're recording on a Thursday, which doesn't often happen.
It's insanity, but you know, whatever headspace I was in, it at least let me, I guess, break down, because there is a lot on this album. There's, like you said, there's a lot of layers, even on this song, where it doesn't get overwhelming. I'd say kind of like how I think you were feeling about Jacob Collier,
Yeah.
where like there's just so much happening, and I mean, not in a good or a bad way. Like there's just a lot of things happening all at once, and you can make with it what you will, but it's just dense, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like that in itself isn't a bad thing, but the production is something that I've kind of harped on a lot throughout my notes in this album, where the mixing kind of feels a little off. So I think maybe with like, I don't want to say better mixing, but different mixing, it could have made some of it a bit more like palatable for me. But obviously, again, it's this album's not for me. So don't take that the wrong way, guys. If you're listening, like, I'm not saying you need to fire your producer or find someone better to make your music or whatever. It's just not. It's just little things that would make it better for me specifically.
Who do you think this album's for, Jeremy?
I mean, it's for people that'll vibe with it, right? That's the intention of every artist, is to create an album that like expresses what they're feeling and resonates with other people. And this doesn't really resonate with me.
Yeah. So.
I
think more than anything, the rock portions, the more rock inspired portions, and the fucking saxophone. I dig the saxophone.
There's a lot of sax on this album, and it's always spot on.
Yeah, saxophone, man. I've seen your picture online. I don't know your name, but you're doing a great job. And I mean, to the singer too. Like, I like his voice. It reminds me of The Weeknd, and I like The Weeknd. It reminds me of, I mean, not necessarily in the way that he sounds, but in the way that it fits into the music. Like you said, it takes it in a more...
that kind of pop R&B feel that I can't stand.
Yeah. Am I coming to find... I think I specifically don't like R&B from like the 90s and early 2000s is, I guess, more my jam.
But even The Weeknd kind of feels like that to me sometimes. So.
And you know you'll get the best of me at least.
I do like that song. Again, The Weeknd, half and half. We're not going to talk about The Weeknd on this episode anymore. Hopefully.
Well, that song's about cocaine, Jeremy. So there we go. That one's not about sex. But okay, yeah, we'll get back. We'll get back to the album at hand. We're getting way too off topic, and I have no clue why.
It's just because it's a weird week.
It is a weird week.
No need to apologize. I mean, I guess sorry for the Sunset Kings if you guys are listening and trying to hear our very well thought out thoughts on this.
But
I assure you, none of our thoughts are ever thought out.
If you listen to more of our podcasts, you know that doesn't ever happen.
Yeah, they're not going to listen to this. They're just promoting their album. They're just getting it out there. They wanted us to talk about it, and now we are. We fell into their trap.
Well, you know what? They fell into our trap because
their fans might stumble upon our podcast now.
Exactly. I think the promotion got reversed. We fucking hit a reverse Uno card.
It's a symbiotic relationship, you know. Yeah. All of our no listeners will now listen to them, and all of their 35,000 listeners will now listen to us. You know,
is that how that works?
We both gain something, right?
Yeah, definitely. But anyways. So yeah, the guitar solo, the saxophone in this song, I dig it. I mean, I like the atmospheric strings, the starry sounds in the background. There are general like earlier hip hop R&B vibes that like I feel like at times totally work with the rock, with like the guitar, with the saxophone, with just the general rest of it. But then there's times where I'm like, was this necessary? I guess.
Yeah, that sums up adequately, I think, a lot of my feelings on the music production, at least on this album. But sometimes it works well, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So I couldn't find any lyrics online. I think I had pointed that out in the last song, and like I was just making out what I could because I'm terrible at parsing out lyrics, even if they're really clear.
Yeah.
But so this song, I know you're gonna love this one, Jeremy. This song, it sounded to me about meeting somebody in a club, dancing then with them, and then wanting a little bit more afterwards, like
fucking.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe a nice relationship, like you're sensing a real connection with this person you're dancing with, and you're metronome and you're swaying back and forth with them, and you're just like, huh, I could really take her out for some ice cream.
Ice cream, not sex.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. The song's about sex.
I mean, maybe.
Every song. That's not true. Not on this album.
Yeah, not on this album.
I have a love-hate relationship with this album. We'll get to the love later, I promise. Right now, I'm angry. I'm an angry young man because it's all R&B about fucking.
Are you so angry that you're like seeing everything in little frames? Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you ever experienced the phenomenon that is framing, or your vision skips like FPS and it looks like you're looking around at like an ancient video. But if you were on like
strobe lights playing,
yeah, almost, and like you're walking down Green Street, just skipping frames, just stumbling.
This is a really hard album to segue, guys. Track number 3 is Green Street Skip Frame.
Yeah, like I don't know what that means. I know what it.
I know what Green Street means theoretically, right?
Yeah, and I can kind of make out what skip frame would be, but like I can't contextualize those sets of words together.
Yeah. This one starts off with some kind of dissonance and some like haunting, ominous vibes that are usually pretty cool. I really like it. It makes me feel uneasy, but in a good way. I think I really like the kind of effect that the music has on me here. The vocals kind of float around and they echo in some kind of like almost schizophrenic way. Like there's just like layers of thoughts happening in my brain, and it's kind of overwhelming, but I also kind of like it in the context of the song because it's all just slightly unsettling for me, and it's kind of a nice sensation. I think there's not a lot of structure to the song, and it feels like they're just kind of like jamming and feeling it out as they're recording it, which is cool. I'm into that kind of stuff. There is an outro section that is basically its own little song that I thought was kind of weird as an inclusion. Maybe it could have been an interlude because they have other interludes on this track. It's a pretty lovely little ditty, but it kind of drifts away into the ocean that is the rest of this kind of like weird ambient experience.
I like the ambient experience a lot. Like, not necessarily just of this song, but just like there's a lot of, I feel like they put a lot of work into creating an atmosphere around the album as well as the album.
Yeah.
And I think I like the atmosphere a lot, like more than some of the songs, I guess. But this song, I do like this song. Like it's got more of a poppy like chord progression, and like you were saying, some of it feels kind of like off kilter, like a little like what's going on, what's happening, and because there's like some whispery sounding vocals coming in, and then like the singing is more prominent. Like the last song it had the rap, or the last few songs they had like him kind of rapping, kind of doing more of an R&B, and I feel like this one is more poppy than R&B. And like it's got the little bit of experimenting that they do, kind of, it's toned down a little bit. Like it's not as musically dense, I guess, as the previous song. The first song I guess was kind of more of an intro, but it's like I do like the vocals on this one a lot. I like what they do. I think it was in the last chorus they have like a dark reversed like warped version of the vocals behind the lead vocals that give it a really cool quality, and some wind instruments, make you feel a little floaty.
Feel a little bit windy when you're floating down Green Street skipping frames,
Yeah. Dude, I don't fucking know what Green Street skip frame. That's hard to say.
Green Street skip frame.
Say that 5 times fast.
Green Street skip frame, Green Street skip frack hand. Fuck.
But lyrically, I think the song, like what I got personally, is because I'm not reading any interpretations from people who are way smarter than me on Genius about this album.
Because this album's not on Genius, so we can't.
Put your album on Genius, guys, so I can read the lyrics, because I'm a dumb Neanderthal that needs to read things while I'm listening to them to fully understand it. Lyrically, I think the song is about taking a harder look at what's around you instead of just kind of mindlessly going through life, like being more present, letting go of regrets, letting go of thoughts of the past, and focusing on the now, realizing what's happening in the world, and kind of just paying attention to see if you can do something for yourself.
Yeah. I agree with that. All inside the context of a relationship, because every song on this album I've been I did this one's not about fucking. I will say that.
There you
But
go.
yeah, I got very similar vibes. It's just kind of like going with the flow, kind of focusing on yourself and what you're doing, and just having fun, you know? Not
Yeah.
not everything has to be so fucking serious.
Yeah. Not
Which I mean,
everything.
which kind of I guess opens itself up to be talked about. That's what sex is, right? And if you're not really in a relationship and you're just having casual sex, that's kind of also fitting in the theme of the song. So that's a stretch for me, but you know, it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. I think that was just like the aftermath of you constantly thinking about sex, Jeremy.
Maybe we're getting some Freud action in here, and I'm just always thinking about sex.
All day I think about
But then,
sex.
wouldn't I enjoy R&B music if it's all about sex?
I don't know, because what I've always felt, I don't know. It's like it's the thing that like, and I like Barry White, I like Marvin Gaye,
Yeah,
I like that, but like starting back then, it was like that's sex music. You put that on your record player, you
yeah.
pour a nice glass of wine, and the fact that it has that connotation makes me feel weird to listen to it
When you're not
outside.
having sex.
Yeah, because I'm just like in my car and some dude's just fucking like moaning.
I mean, it's kind of how I feel listening to Robert Plant sing anything ever, even though he's clearly not. Well, I mean, I don't want to say clearly not. In a whole lot of love, he's getting it, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't fucking know. You made a segue. We blew past to track number 4 is Aftermath. Starts with a woman on the phone calling to someone to come, quote unquote, save her and her friends. It sounds like they've been drinking maybe a bit too much, and she's trying to maybe get someone to come over and hang out with them because they're fucking white girl wasted.
Hashtag.
Hashtag white girl wasted. I'm not super crazy about the vocals on this track outside of that little intro. Even this is the one that I noticed it was like super breathy at points, which
Mm-hmm.
just makes me feel uncomfortable and not in the good way that the last one, because it almost hits like an ASMR vibe for me, which is not a vibe for me at all. I hate ASMR stuff, and it just like I don't know, it creeps me out. I don't like it. Musically though, pretty chill and vibey. It's got some nice like laid back guitar and bass, some keys, some more ambient floaty effects that are kind of scattered throughout this whole album. A beat comes in like halfway through, and this is another like production issue I have, is that like when the beat comes in on this, it feels like it's distractingly prominent.
Yeah.
Like it's all I can focus on and all I can hear is just a loud beat kind of in front of everything else. And it's not even the beat itself feels kind of like scattered and eclectic in some ways. I'm just not really a fan of how the drums were handled on this track.
So I do like this song. It's one of my favorites on the album, but I will start because I have the same, I guess, issue with
Mhm.
the drums is that it's like it's a drum machine. So like it's a beat
Right.
and it's like somebody just like layered it on top of everything else. Like I know that's not a thing in audio software, but it's like in Microsoft Word, they had a bunch of pictures all in the same spot, and they were like, drums, top layer,
Top
boom.
layer. Yeah.
And
The mixing could have been better.
yeah, but the rest of the aspects of the song I did like. Like even though the vocal delivery it is more pop R&B oriented, I liked it with kind of the general vibe of the music. Like
Mhm.
the more it has that more reverby, echoey guitar that really builds like a slow atmosphere, and then a
Yeah.
guitar line comes in kind of in the background that reminds me of like that trilly Midwest emo stuff that you see like all
Yeah.
over fucking YouTube. Like, and I'm a sucker for that. Like, I am all about that. That cool, like really treble heavy, like you're not picking even because you don't have to because
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
guitars like turn way the fuck up so you can just touch the strings and they make beautiful sounds. But it gives that kind of vibe. So like that counterpointed with the pop R&B vocals, it worked for me. It gave me like a
Yeah.
nice floaty tone where it felt like I was floating in a pool with my ears under the water and my eyes were above the water. And then the
Hell yeah.
drums if they would have just been turned down a little bit, it like I'm instantly running. I'm out of the pool and I'm up somewhere in like in a fit, like something's happening, and I'm just like, what's happening? What, like, I feel like caveman SpongeBob, where I'm just like, oh.
Yes,
but,
caveman SpongeBob, indeed.
But so this song, it's not about sex.
It's not, and this is lyrically, I think, the start of the high note. They're like this whole mid section of this album feels kind of out of place for me, at least from what I was getting from a lot of, because I mean the first 3 tracks for me are about a relationship, right? Whether that's fucking, whether that's not, whatever. It's about a relationship. And then this one, it seems to be about a person named Nick that they mention a few times in the album. And this one, it's the aftermath of after Nick died, which I'm assuming Nick was a bandmate, or he was some part of the Sunset Kings. And a lot of this album seems kind of, well, I don't even want to say a lot of this album. The midsection of this album seems to be about Nick and how they're kind of dealing with Nick's death. I think in one of the later tracks they talk about Nick having released an album or written music for an album, and that they've just been listening to it over and over again, and they really like what Nick did. So I'm not sure if Nick recorded parts for this album specifically, and then they finished it up and they're releasing it, or if it's a totally unrelated thing, or if he was even in the Sunset Kings and it was just a friend that they knew. But it seems like someone close to the band named Nick had died, and this song is kind of like him talking about how he's dealing with that in the immediate moments after Nick has died.
Yes. So Nick, I can't confirm this because I couldn't find too much personal information, which, I mean, like, it's not like you're fucking out there with like it's not like you're Metallica where I can find like your children's height.
Right.
Like it's, I feel like I'd have to know the people in the band to know this information, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did find out that their bassist, whose name, whenever I found it, was Shag. So I don't know if that was like a nickname for Nick or if they're entirely different people. But they had a previous bassist named Shag who passed away in 2019, I think I read.
Oh, that's pretty recent.
Yeah, and this song, if they are the same person, seems to be about, which would line up with the like them being in the band. So that's kind of where it went for this song, which it was nice to have a heavier topic. Not, I mean, like, death isn't good. It's obviously not like,
but it is a part of life.
Yeah,
and I think it adds some more interesting discussion for this album than just songs about fucking.
I agree. Like, when I'm imagining having sex, I'm not listening to music. But when I'm grieving death, I would be listening to music and wanting to relate through that artistic medium. So that's where I feel like it resonates. It's a deeper emotion, so you can get deeper. I don't know.
Good on them for doing that. It's one thing to lose a friend and to grieve that, but to then put it out there in the public, right, on a music album, is especially one in this vein where some of the songs are much more lighter hearted than this. Like, it takes some balls. Good on them for doing that. I'm glad you guys do that. I think that's the saving grace of this album for me, is that it does kind of get real in this song and in a couple other of the interludes and stuff, which resonates more with me personally.
Yeah,
maybe that's the issue. Maybe I'm just sex deprived, and that's why I don't want anyone talking about sex. And I think everyone's always talking about it because I can't get any or something.
At the beginning of every R&B album needs to have a trigger warning for Jeremy.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't control sex, and you can't control death, and this album kind of puts them side by side, which is kind of an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah, and it also talks about that on track number 5, you can't control death.
Yes!
Parentheses interlude.
I got one.
Segue.
Like, it's the first segue, well, outside of the intro, that I've even attempted to make. Joey's been carrying me this whole time. You can't control death. It's an interlude track. This is the first one that it feels kind of like a behind the scenes kind of footage thing. Like they're all like sitting in a living room or in the recording studio or some small room and just kind of talking about death and life. And then it fades out, like their discussion, as some like live guitar, bass, drums come in. Like they're performing a song in the studio and recording it on a phone, which is kind of it's a nice like kind of warm feeling, even though they are talking about how you can't control death and how it impacts them.
Yeah, I really like the added touch of the live show or like the rough recording. It hit not necessarily in the same way that like we talked about on Nurture, like where Porter was just kind of recording himself. Like
Yeah,
I
making
could,
the music.
yeah, I could like thinking about that now still evokes emotion.
Yeah,
And this was definitely still emotional, but it like tapped into that same I guess idea of like they're just like having a real discussion outside and like recording it makes the music seem more personal, like coming off of the last song where it was the first heavier song on the album, and then you hear them talking about it
yeah,
and just go back to recording music. You're like, I don't know, it puts it more in perspective, I guess. So it's good that they put it here. Which, side note, this interlude and the other interludes apparently were not on the original like Bandcamp release of the album. They're not on Bandcamp. I don't know. I mean, they're on Spotify, but like, so I don't know if they were in the original release of this album or added at a later time.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm glad they're included, at least in the
Yeah.
version that I listened to. So good on them. And again, it's like it's very impressive. It's very ballsy, especially amidst this album of like relationship and love to like put that content out there. So good on you guys for doing that. I'm gonna try to stop repeating myself. I'm just that's a highlight of this album for me. So good job, guys, on that.
Yeah. The fact that they don't play it safe with like just sticking to
The song's about fucking.
yeah, it the fact that they don't play it safe with that stuff, it's really
Right.
like it makes it's the icing on the cake for
Yeah,
the
it
album.
makes track number 6 just feel right at home. We'll just call it Play It Safe. This one's got a kind of an odd upbeat time signature and some very like jazzy sounds to it. The bassist feels like he's playing in his own key, and the drummer is kind of like playing his own tempo, and it's just I don't know. This kind of eclectic jazz stuff is really not my thing. I don't like a lot of this kind of like modern jazz kind of arrhythmically playing kind of a thing. The vocals and the keys sound very clean and they blend very well, but everything else is just off, and I'm not really into it. And then about a minute and a half in, things kind of tighten up and it becomes more of like the pop R&B sounding stuff that we're expecting on this album.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I like the beginning part at least.
Yeah,
The offbeat type. Like it threw me for a fucking loop because normally what happens is you get these sections like that where it's everything's a little bit off, and then stuff kind of tightens up pretty soon.
right.
There's like a whole fucking verse and like
Yeah,
half a chorus of this just being like, what's happening? I feel like I'm getting like tossed around in a washing machine or something. But
yeah.
I like it. I like that feeling. And yeah. I mean, yeah, the rest of the song, like you summed it up, it's kind of more the sound that we were expecting from like the beginning songs on the album towards the back end of this song. But yeah, I really like the beginning. I like that sound, that
Well, what a
style.
cool jazz guy you are.
Dude, I need to get one of those like long cigarettes and some cool sunglasses that I can wear inside.
Are there specific sunglasses that you can wear inside? Not just
Yeah,
any sunglasses?
they're like the really thin ones. Like they're really like they don't even cover your whole eye, but they're just like
Oh yeah,
they're,
yeah.
yeah, they're like a statement instead of actual like serve a purpose.
Joey is all about statements and not functionality. He's a form over function guy, clearly.
Hell yeah.
Lyrically though, Play It Safe. I don't. Am I crazy?
No, you're not.
Is this song also about fucking kind of like?
Yeah, it is.
This one, I more specifically. Okay, it's not just sex. It feels like he's talking about being stuck in this loop of breaking up and getting back together with someone and never really being able to figure it out. in the context of the last track and the next track, maybe this is him like coping with the death of Nick, using like sex as a distraction. But it also kind of feels like this has been going on for a long time. So I don't know. It felt kind of out of place amidst the two interludes that surround it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, it seemed weird to have such a moment between from aftermath going into you can't control death.
Yeah.
Like, kind of that moment, and then it comes back to, I mean, and like you said, it could have been a coping mechanism, and that's the reason for its placement here. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a coping mechanism. It feels like it's more of just like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of a vibe that I got with the lyrics is about like, maybe it started out as like a friends with benefits type deal, and you're catching feelings for that person, and that's kind of where the cycle comes in, and that leads to like a weird relationship type thing. But still, the placement of this song, I do think, is like it should have been before Aftermath, maybe.
Yeah.
If you're gonna place
I
tracks.
agree, because it fits in with the other songs about fucking, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, there's no blueprint for grief. Like, I don't know what this dude's fucking feeling.
It's true.
So
Yeah, I think that's very valid, as is track number 7, which is aptly titled "There's No Blueprint for Grief,"
boom.
which is another interlude. And this one's similar to "You Can't Control Death," kind of a behind the scenes kind of thing about the guys talking about how they've grieved the loss of Nick. This one for me is like super relatable. I've kind of talked about this before on the podcast, how I lost my mom, and I think it was the Japanese Breakfast album that we did, that I kind of talked a little bit more about this specific aspect of it, where in this track, he the second guy that talks kind of talks about how he wouldn't let himself feel or express any emotion immediately. He would just kind of like coast through life and not really be in control of your emotions, and it would kind of like bottle up, and then once it starts to like get too much, it'll leak out, and then he just lets all of his emotions out in that moment, because he says that he doesn't know when he's going to have the control to do it again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, which is super relatable to me. It's a very like apt description of kind of what I was feeling after I lost my mom, with just not being able to really process emotions, and you just kind of like zone out for a bit, and then it all kind of comes out, because bottling up your emotions, surprise, isn't a good thing to do. Or at least, I don't know, I kind of go back and forth on that, because again, even the song, there's no blueprint for grief, right? People say that like bottling up your emotions is bad, but I think in the context of grief, it's more like a survival mechanism. You just like, you kind of keep it all inside, because you're not really sure how to deal with it or how to express. Especially at my age, I was like 14 years old when it happened, so I wasn't like fully a person, I
Yeah.
guess, and trying to figure out how to process all that stuff and get it out in a quote unquote healthy way, just it doesn't happen. So I don't necessarily think it's bad to bottle up your emotions until you're at a point. I think that's kind of a cliche saying that's maybe not as relevant or sensitive as it should be.
Yeah, like, especially like you said, it during grief, like the stages of grief, I think I'm with you. I don't necessarily think it's unhealthy to bottle up emotions, because it is. I mean, sure, like in everyday life, you shouldn't bottle up the little things and not acknowledge them and whatever, until it gets a point to where you're like, I feel like whenever people are thinking about bottling up emotions, they're thinking about the guy who fucking like goes to work all day and just has no emotions, and then comes home and just fucking takes it all out on like the family, or drinks it. Like,
that's fair.
I don't know, but
maybe
specifically,
I'm just a hashtag sad boy and relates everything to sad grieving instead of other emotions.
But I feel I mean, I think that's valid, because I feel like there's definitely stages of like depression or stages of anxiety that correlate more with grief than straight up sadness.
Yeah.
And I feel like grief for death is a whole different beast as well, because it's a finality. Like, there's nothing to come back from.
Yeah,
because
there's nothing to fix, there's nothing you can do. It's just it's happened, and you have to accept it.
Like, I don't want to say it like it's just different because like with depression, I mean, you can't see it when you're in the fog, but
Right.
there's potentially a way out. There's
Yeah,
at least,
there's potential for change.
yeah, like something could happen. Something could happen to come along and make things better. But with grief for death, there's just it's already ended.
Yeah.
It's the real grief. It's grief for something that is gone and can't come back, which is why I think there's parts of depression and anxiety that can be like grief, because maybe you're grieving the life that you had before you felt that way, or maybe you're grieving because you think it's
Think it's
always,
over.
yeah, like you just already think it's over. But grief for death is something that I think there's no rules for. You can bottle up your emotions, and as long as you're not doing some absolutely batshit stuff whenever it
Yeah.
comes out, like
There's
what,
definitely a healthy and an unhealthy way to release the emotion.
yeah, yeah, that's more, it's not the bottling, it's the release of the bottled emotion that
Yeah.
is the potential problem.
Well, this shit got heavy. No, I don't know if I'm in the mood to continue talking about all of these fucking songs.
Well, I'm definitely in the mood to talk about track number 8, In the Mood.
Hell yeah, back at it. We're out of our slump, boys. Track number 8. This one's got a pretty chill, jazzy beat. It's got some more kind of like R&B pop vocals to it. I like the music, but again, R&B is not really my bag. So I've at this point in the album, I think I'm just like, okay, I'm acclimated to the album,
Yeah.
but I still don't really like it as a thing. So I'm not as harsh on my notes. I do feel like sometimes in this song and maybe just the album overall, the vocals feel like they're progressing while the beat isn't. And I think that also kind of leads to some weird dissonance for me where it feels like the singer is gaining energy and the music would normally follow that energy, but it just doesn't happen. So maybe that's just me complaining about the production again, or maybe it's just me not really vibing with R&B style, I guess.
I think that's like, I think there's some truth to that because it does, I don't know, this one it kind of sounds to me like an older hip hop like pop song, like maybe from the 90s, and the R&B comes in strictly through the vocals, which
Yeah.
it, like, I feel like there is a slight disconnect between the music and the lyrics. Like this song specifically is what really drilled into my head the Weekend comparison. The vocal style, not necessarily the vocal sound, but the vocal style.
Right.
And
The flow
that's,
and the delivery of it.
yeah. But I do like the sax in here. Sax man,
Yeah, I also
keep on
called out the sax guy on my notes for this one.
keep on rocking in the free world. It adds a nice touch. It has more. I feel like this song in general, it has more of a straightforward approach compared to like some of the earlier songs where there was
Yeah.
just a lot of density. Like I feel like they've kind of scaled that back, and that's a good touch at
Yeah, I
least.
kind of wonder if they had like several different producers on the album. I guess splitting up the tracks amongst a couple of them, and so like some of them have that feel and some of them don't have that feel because they were produced by different people.
That could be. I don't. I've never. I mean, I've written songs. I've never been in any sort of production process. So
Right.
I don't know what goes into that. I don't know. Maybe you're like feeling a different way one
It's
day, and
true.
you're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna add 20 layers to this."
I'm feeling thick today, boys.
Damn boy, you thick.
But yeah, I don't hate the song. It's just still not really my thing. Lyrically, this one to me kind of seemed like he was about him and his partner were falling out of love, kind of a thing. Which maybe it's just part of that cycle that we talked about previously. And this at this point, it sounds like he's ready to talk about things and he's wanting to like fix things instead of just falling back into the breakup and get back together and break up and get back together kind of thing.
See, that's where I couldn't quite pin this song down because I got the same vibe. Like you're ready to get your thoughts out, and you're actually in a position to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know whether or not to relate this to like a romantic relationship or to like what they
Grieving.
were to grieving, like where they were talking about, and there's no blueprint for grief. They're talking about being like, you don't know when you're going to have the control to get your thoughts out again. And it's like, this song made me think of that moment where, but I mean, he would have a lot more control in this moment. It sounds like, based on what the song is, where he's
Right.
like, he's choosing to do this. It's not happening. And that's kind of where I was like, I don't know if the song's about grief or about a
Yeah,
relationship.
I think it can go either way because, again, that whole like weird dark midsection about Nick, which I applaud them for including, it just feels out of place amongst the album. I think
Yeah.
with at least like lyrically, it's kind of jarring, and I guess it leaves us in this position where we're not sure where to go for the rest of the album, if it's back to the more lighthearted stuff or if it's not. So I can definitely agree with you on not being 100%, but I took it in more of the relationship way.
Yeah, the song in general sounded like that's what the lyrics would be. I'd say, like the music and everything.
Yeah, I mean
Not
that's
not
just R&B. R&B always feels like fucking.
Yeah, well, this next track's gonna feel like warding off evil because you have
Because that's
to,
its title.
because that's its title.
They didn't need to make that any more elaborate. Just leave it at that. Track number 9, Warding Off Evil. It's another interlude.
Boom.
With this one, it seems like it's the guys talking about the album that I kind of mentioned earlier. They're talking about an album that Nick made, and they just both of them keep listening to it, and they really love how it sounds. And it makes me wonder, like, if this album isn't that album that they're talking about, I wonder how much of an influence Nick's album had on this to make them make some of the production choices in it, or make some of those layering choices that I'm not super crazy about. Maybe they just really vibe with that kind of sound, and if that's the case, then fucking good for you guys. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
But you do have to like it, Jeremy.
I don't.
Everybody has to like it.
I'm allowed to have an opinion. That's how this works.
No, everybody's got to have the same opinion, Jeremy.
What is your opinion on
my opinion on this track? So we had mentioned previously, before I say what I was about to say, you were talking about this song. They were having a conversation about an album potentially by Nick, who had, or earlier you did say that you didn't know if it was like this album that they were listening to or a different album. The fact that the interludes and the outro that will come later were not on the initial Bandcamp release makes me wonder if they released this and like they were talking about, like they are talking about this album and then they just like had a discussion or something and we're like, you know what, the themes that we talked about in our discussion fit with the album, and they just like threw it in there as sort of a context for the listener. I don't.
I think that maybe makes more sense. Again, it feels weird because Aftermath feels directly about Nick dying, and it wouldn't make sense for Nick to write that song about,
you know,
dying,
that's true, and that
I guess the lyrics could have come afterwards, right? So Nick maybe wrote all the music for this album, and then they just put lyrics on it to get it out there because they wanted the album to release because they liked it so much.
And I mean, this is all speculation because
100%.
Like, but
we don't know shit.
I don't know anything, and I know that Shag passed in 2019. I do not know if Shag and Nick are the same person, so I don't know if that timeline lines up with the production or the making of this album. I know they did release at least like a single or something, or an EP. It looked like Rooftops is what it was called in 2020, and this album came out on January 1st of 2021, at least according to Bandcamp. I have no sources. I don't have a physical copy of this album. I can't look at the
liner notes or anything.
Yeah.
Hey, but side note, the Sunset Kings, if you guys are still listening to this episode, if you guys want to clarify anything in the comments, or even maybe we can record an episode with you guys just to kind of talk about the album and what we got right and what we didn't get right, and what's anything that you want to clear up, feel free to drop us another comment, and we can make something happen.
Or you could just ignore us.
That's true. Maybe I'm just having some blue dream about talking to some musician that's released music, because I can't do it myself.
Yeah, and also track number 10 is called Blue Dream.
Nailed it.
But for real, we always talk about audience interaction, and nobody interacts with us.
That's why you were so keen on this album, is because you're that guy that doesn't get any attention. So when he does get attention, he feels like it's the best moment of his life, and he has to grab onto it.
That's me.
You end up scaring everyone away because you're too clingy about it when you finally do get attention.
That is me to a T.
We just got too real here.
I run off of external validation exclusively. I have no idea how to internally set goals and stick to them to feel proud of myself on my own.
That, man. That's a journey, though. We're on that journey. Different points in the journey, maybe, but we're on that journey together, perhaps. And maybe we'll release an album like the Sunset Kings did at some point.
And then maybe we'll comment on somebody's podcast who has 0 listens and be like, hey,
we're cool. Listen to us.
Listen to us, please.
Track number 10.
They didn't beg. I'll clarify that.
Yeah, they did not beg. They just mentioned that they had an album, and Joey's like, yeah, let's do it. Track number 10, Blue Dream. We got to finish this album before we go too far off the rails again. This one has kind of a good like bluesy rock guitar sound in this one that I like. There's this kind of trap beat almost that comes in. Yeah, it feels strange and once again maybe too prominent. Like it was mixed too much to the front, but pretty cool. I like the guitars on this track. There's some kind of like weird dissonant notes every now and then that feel a little bit off, but overall it's a pretty interesting groovy track to it. It's got a second guitar solo that comes in with the electro synths that get carried over from like the second verse, chorus section, and then the song just kind of like gets let out by the solo, and it's cool.
Yeah, I definitely like the mix between the trap beat and the rock guitar. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know, the sound that I remember talking about on Ballads 1, whenever we talked about that album on an episode a while ago from Joji. Like, I think it was R.I.P., the song near the end of the album with Trippie Redd. And I was like, I got that vibe from this song with just like I could tell there was like definite trap influence, but then like I don't know if that's what SoundCloud rap is.
Yeah.
But that's what it made me think of. And I don't know if that's what you're going for, but that's what I got. And the guitar solo, like it sounded like it has like an older psychedelic vibe to it, I guess.
Yeah. The guitars on this whole album, to be clear, are pretty fucking cool. I like a lot of it.
Yeah, so keep playing guitar at least.
Yeah, indeed. Lyrically, surprise for me. Anyway, this one it's a song about being blinded by passion and love, which come together to make fucking. So, you know. I'm sorry if you feel like I'm being reductive of your lyrics, guys. If you're listening, this is not my bag, and it all sounds like fucking to me.
Is that really the recipe this whole time? What was it? Passion plus love. Is that
equals fucking?
That's all you need.
That's our lead single, Joey, from our band's album.
Hell yeah. I'll play the kazoo.
Hell yeah. There's nothing sexier than a kazoo.
Oh god, yeah, once I get that kazoo on my lips, the ladies just never let me go.
Nice. Track number 11. Never Let Me Go. This one's got some more kind of blues, but also like some jazzy lo-fi piano kind of thing that comes in. It's got a groovy bass line. The guitar is noodling around. There's a lot of like quickly changing sections, and it kind of drowns out the vocals on this one, which neither here nor there, I guess, for me, because I'm not super into it. But just a production note again. It just felt kind of weird. Some of the sections are a bit more clean and straightforward, but yeah, again, just the mixing on this album just feels so strange to me.
Well, I liked the mixing on this track because it just sounded really watery. Like this whole song, it just was really watery and smooth, and I liked it. The sax was nice. It sounded like an old jazzy song with a lot of modern influence, kind of in. It was like the background was an old jazz song, and then at the foreground was like a modern song, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I got the lo-fi kind of jazz feel. That it's all the craze in the SoundClouds and the YouTubes for the past couple of years. It's just a lot of that, like that. It's making something feel older than it is, I suppose, which is kind of like it's a fun contrast with having modern tools to play older stuff. So I think we had a similar vibe going on. We just described it differently.
Well, I don't think we'll be describing the lyrics differently.
Why is that, Joey? What do you think the song's about?
So I think this song is about wanting to have one last fling with someone, with that one person that you can start fucking again.
You said it, not me. But I'll also say, yeah, it feels
Okay.
like this is sustaining the loop, perhaps, of getting back together and hoping that this time it'll be different. And because he says we don't need each other, we just need love, kind of a thing. Which obviously it's a red flag for a relationship standpoint. But if they're just fucking, then let it
Then why
be.
not? Then you can go all the way back to, forget the song where it was talking about catching feelings for a one night stand or like a friends with benefits. That one.
Yeah,
You're just coming full circle and it's happening
that's
again.
the album. This whole album is a thing. We've
Yeah.
been talking so much about fucking. You know what? Fuck the Sunset Kings.
Outro live track 12.
Gotcha. Track number 12 is called "Fuck the Sunset Kings." I was just talking about their song, not hate, spewing vitriol and hatred towards them.
This outro, you know, we've talked about grand, swelling outros to albums, and
you don't think this is one?
How the last impression of an album, it's just like usually this epic build that's been coming this whole album.
Yeah, there's usually some sort of resolution.
This song, it's not that.
It's not.
Not like it doesn't like really affect the album in any sort of way.
Yeah, but it doesn't end the album the way you would expect an album to be ended, I suppose.
It's just like drunk rambling to end out the album.
Yeah, it's just some girls like asking a guy to say whose fault it was. Like they're all just drunk, which I mean, I guess kind of ties back to the other phone call where the girls were like, "Oh, we're drunk. We need you to come save us." Clearly, the guy gave in, perhaps, and now he's wasted with them, and they're just like picking on the drunk guy now. Which
so whoever you are, Alistair, if you're out there, I guess it's your fault.
Someone's fault. We don't know. It's a cliffhanger of an ending for this album. I do feel like it's a very strange inclusion, especially for the end of the album.
Really and it wasn't on the original Bandcamp release. This was the last, like, there were 8 songs on that Bandcamp release. Then 4, which were the 3 interludes, and this outro were added, I guess, other places. So
strange.
Yeah, like I liked the inclusion of the 3 interludes. This one, it
feels out of place.
Yeah, like it's just I don't understand the inclusion in the sense, like in a narrative sense. Not that there really was much narrative, I guess. There was a slight through line.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like we maybe put too much pressure on albums to be concept albums or to have like a story arc to them, and that's a lot of pressure, especially for people that are like just starting out making albums. Not everyone's first album should be a concept album with some grand themes to it.
Yeah, not every album's going to be 2112.
Yeah, or Crack the Sky or anything like that.
Oh my god,
we had to bring in another Mastodon reference. It's been a while.
Crack the Sky. Oh my god, what a fucking album.
What an album. We're not talking about that. That's the end. We got through it. Overall, this is the first one that I've written like an overall section.
Oh my god.
For a while. But I don't really dislike it. But again, R&B is not really my thing, nor is the kind of modern jazz that's being incorporated into it. I think some of the mixing obviously was strange and muddy, and other times it was smooth and clean. So I'm not sure how much of it was intentional for the sound that they wanted for the album. But I think the best word that I could come up with to describe the album is entropic, because there's a lot of things going on at once sometimes, and it's not really going together necessarily. It's just kind of happening, and if that's what they're going for, cool. I definitely don't want to act like it's a bad album. It's just not my cup of tea, and I think maybe if you like R&B, you might like this album. So maybe check it out and form your own opinion and tell me I'm wrong in the comments.
Yeah, I definitely think that this album is catered more towards people with, not to say that we have like, we don't listen to modern music, but like people with more modern tastes, I guess.
Yeah.
At least in this sphere, like somebody who listens to like older R&B may not like necessarily get down with it as, which I mean, you know, that's unfair. They probably would. But yeah, there's a lot of modernity on this album. I feel like
That's a good band name.
Modernity leave.
Modernity leave. We cracked the code.
God damn it. Okay. But yeah, so I'm not necessarily a stickler for production. I listen to a lot of music that sounds like it was recorded on somebody's phone inside of a metal garage.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to mixing, there are definitely like layers to this album that I feel like were made just too loud or too like there's just like mix. It's not really, I guess, a sound quality issue. It's more of like, yeah, like we said, like sound mixing.
Yeah.
Some issues with mainly with like drums and layering. But
and
I do like
to give the benefit of the doubt to the band, maybe that's just on these versions that made it to YouTube and SoundCloud, and maybe the Bandcamp version is mixed better.
Yeah. And you know, maybe they just like it that way.
That's true.
And we can all go either. And we can all go fuck off because we didn't make the album.
Exactly. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of passion to put an album out. So good on you guys for doing so. If you guys want to talk about the album with us, let us know. If you just want to leave a comment clarifying some things, that's cool too. Fucking do it. If you, as a listener, not in the band, also have thoughts on what the album means or want to yell at me for being so reductive of the lyrics to "they're all about fucking," do so. You can yell at us. We're on social media as well, so it's not even just on YouTube or anything. You can just tweet us. I don't think anyone's tweeted us yet.
No. Leave a comment on Spotify.
We've been doing this for like a year and a half at this point.
Oh my god.
Nobody's tweeted us because we don't promote ourselves at all anywhere.
Who uses Twitter anymore?
Seriously, the damn kids. Anyways, yeah, we're out there. Come find us on social media. Say hi. Talk to us. Give us some album recommendations. If you're an aspiring artist, or if you consider yourself already, I guess, a professional artist, drop your album titles and shit, and maybe we'll check them out. Joey will, because Joey likes attention, as established.
Yeah. And I like new music, so also.
Just throw it all at us and stay in our feedback loop.
Hold on. Listen to Sunset Kings. Bye.
Oh, wait. I got so far ahead of myself. We didn't even say what we're doing next week.
Are we going to cut that part, or is that just staying in? Nobody's listening to this point.
This is all staying in.
Okay, cool. What are we listening to next week?
I'm gonna cue up the music like it's ending, and then drop it out because we didn't end it. Listen to Sunset Kings, the Shadow and Technicolor. Is that what
just listen to all of them. Yeah, Shadow Work and Technicolor is the name of the album.
Wow, I have it right in front of me. I fucked it up and I wasn't even looking at it.
I am literally looking at the album art right now.
I'm so bad at this. How did we get this job? Oh, wait, it's not really a job.
We gave it to ourselves. One day, we're just like, hey, let's start a podcast. We fucking did.
We have interesting things to say about music. Anyways,
what are we listening to?
Next week, we're just. I don't have anything in this realm because yet again, I don't listen to R&B music. But I was thinking about picking some like soul music to go with it, and I was like, fuck it, we're just going in a random direction, and what better direction to run than Babymetal?
Oh my god.
We're going to be doing Babymetal's first album. As a clerical note, the original release of the album only has 13 tracks. The version that is on the digital version that is on like YouTube, and I'm assuming Spotify, has 15 tracks. We're not going to do those last 2 tracks. Feel free to listen to them, but I will not be writing notes for those last 2 tracks because I don't have them in my downloaded release. So
I'll listen to those just like I listen to Basketball Dreams.
Exactly. That's a good album. But yeah, Babymetal, their 2014 self-titled album with the 2015 version, I guess, is what's on YouTube Music anyway, which has the bonus tracks we're not going to be doing. But I think Joey's in for some fun surprises, and I'm excited to talk about it. So now I will gladly say expertly for the first time today, stay in our feedback loop.
Bye.